New Year's, everyone! And to celebrate 2022, we are going to be talking about a show that came out in 2021. Did I also mention that my New Year's resolution is to start uploading reviews at least a week after the product has come out? What do you mean you don't believe me? So I did not plan to review this show, considering that I already had a review planned this week with a script and everything. But as I was working on the next review, I decided to check out this show because a lot of people recommended it to me. So since a bunch of people kept bugging me to watch this show, I finally sat my butt down to watch this show. And then I ripped the script for this week's review and started working on this instead. Now, here's the thing. Usually when people hype up shows for me to watch, they usually end up being good, but it never feels like it's on the same level as the hype it was given. I thought Squid Game was a fantastic show, but I did not think it was a masterpiece like everyone else said it was. And I thought I was going to feel the same way after watching Arcane. But after watching this show, the worst thing that could ever happen to a human being happened to me. I became a League of Legends fan. Arcane is not a good show. It is a great show. The fact that the last show I watched in 2021 ended up being the best show of 2021 is fucking insane. But anyway, let's start off with the story. And good lord, I'm going to try my best not to spoil shit. So in this show, there are two cities that coexist with each other. And by coexist, I mean they fucking hate each other. There is Piltover, the city of progress, and then there is Zaun, the city of Detroit. So throughout this crazy journey between Piltover and Zaun, politics, violence, betrayal, and more violence occurs. And this is usually around the time where I talk about the main character's goal, but here's the thing. Everyone's goal in this show is kind of the same. The people of Zaun just want the underground to have a better life, but there are some people who are willing to go to extremes to make that happen. And the same can be said with Piltover. Piltover is a city that thrives on progress and change, and there are some people who are willing to go to extremes to make those changes happen. So while technically there are good guys and bad guys in this show, the show leans in such a gray area that you never consider a villain to be downright evil, and you never consider a hero to be downright heroic. And that's just one of the elements in Arcane that made this show stand out from every other show that came out this year. I mean, last year. Now let's get the obvious question out of the way. Do you need to have any knowledge of League of Legends to watch this show? No. Matter of fact, I actually think it's a better experience to jump into this show knowing absolutely nothing. This show does a fantastic job of not only showing the early developments of some characters in the game, but also developing the characters that were created for the show. Throughout the entire show, I didn't know who was in the game and who wasn't because of how well written the characters were. And the fact that I didn't know who was in the game made it so much more emotionally impactful because I didn't know who had plot armor in this show. Yeah, I was wrong on a few characters I thought had plot armor. And since we're already on the topic of characters, I really tried to look for a character I didn't like in this show. And yes, there are definitely characters I like more than others, but every character in this show is absolutely fantastic. Each character is flawed in their own way, but at the same time, you understand where they're coming from. Even the villains such as Silco, you may not agree with his methods, but you still understand where he's coming from. And I will say this right now, I knew nothing of Powder before this show, but all I can say is that I was on the verge of tears by the last episode. Ella Purnell's performance in this show was on a whole other level, and by episode 3, I was emotionally invested in these characters way more than I ever expected when I first started this show. But that being said, everyone's performance in this show was phenomenal. None of the performances felt flat, and as someone who is a voice actor, watching this show made me jealous because I wasn't a part of it. As I was watching this show, I just randomly shouted out of the blue, "Why can't I be in this goddamn show?" It's one of those shows where you wish you could have been involved in some way. So if someone from Riot Games is listening to this, I don't have to be a main character. Just let me be a random henchman to get stabbed in season 2. Hell, I could just be one of the monsters that grunts in this show. Matter of fact, I can do examples. Yeah, Mom? No, I'm not choking. Oh wait, I forgot to live alone. But the one thing I don't talk about as much in my reviews that in my opinion turns a good show into a great show is world building. Now I go two ways when it comes to world building. I love when someone takes the time to actually put effort into their world, giving us this lore that existed before the characters in the show were even alive. But at the same time, I also love when you just make the world fucking fun to explore. Don't get me wrong, I love a world with a good structure and history to back it up, but at the same time, I can be a man of simplicity as well. I feel like I've seen way too many shows and games try way too hard to make these big and groundbreaking worlds and then fail miserably. Where if you just focused on making the world fun, I wouldn't bitch. I think the world building in most Final Fantasy games are a mess, but when they can make the world fun to explore, then I can let it slide. But the question is, how was Arcane's world building? Way above and beyond what I expected. They gave us a world that not only looks fun to explore, but also feels real. It feels like a living, breathing world with its own lore, history, and secrets yet to be discovered. It's one thing when you have a great structure for your world, but when you can immerse the audience and make your world feel like it exists, that's when you truly know that you have created something special. When I see Piltover, it feels like a rich city, imbued with advanced technology and authority, truly feeling like a city of progress. And when I see Zaun, it feels like a dark, grunged, and unhinged city that is completely broken of any order. And you can truly sense that from the animation. And as for the animation, what do you want me to say that everyone else hasn't already said? The animation is god tier. After Into the Spider-Verse and now this, we are definitely going to get a lot more shows and movies with this animation style. Maybe not on this level, but definitely some that will try to copy it. At this point, it might be my favorite animation style, especially for the sexy ass fight scenes in this show. In most shows, there's always that one specific fight scene that stands out from all of the others. Nah. In this show, every fight scene stands out from each other. I don't even want to know how long it took them to animate some of these fights. And they just couldn't help themselves, could they? They could have just stopped at the fight, but no. They had the fucking audacity to burn my house down with the fire-ass soundtrack in this show. Some of the tracks even caught me off guard because I feel like if I heard some of the tracks by themselves, I probably wouldn't have liked them as much. But when you add the animation and story on top of those tracks, it ends up fitting so well with certain scenes. I am really trying my hardest to find something negative in this show, and I'm sure someone out there has already done that. But for me, I enjoyed everything in this show so much that even if I did find a negative in this show, it wouldn't even matter, considering how well everything else is executed in this show. To put it simply, and I don't say this much, especially for a video game adaptation, a fucking video game adaptation, Arcane is a masterpiece. It is currently the greatest video game adaptation of all time. But if you're still skeptical because this game is based off of League of Legends, and let's be honest, League of Legends fans are known to be toxic, here's what I recommend. Watch the first 3 episodes, and if you're still not convinced to keep going after episode 3, then you can move on and watch something else like, I don't know, the Freak Brothers. But with all that said, Arcane gave us an amazing world, some amazing fights, amazing characters, amazing visuals, amazing soundtrack. This show is fucking amazing, and if you haven't watched this show after everything I said, I don't know why the fuck you're still watching this review. Get the fuck in there and watch this show! And you are not getting out until you have seen every episode! So with all that said, my final verdict for Arcane, if it wasn't obvious enough, is the platinum seal of approval.